My name is Roy Smith. I'm 91 years old, and I came down here last year and skydived and thought it was great on my birthday, so I thought I would just do it again this year. Now I'm going to watch the light event.
Thank you, Roy Smith, for that rather spectacular introduction. Actually, it sort of got me to thinking, should I put that on my bucket list? I might. We'll see. Meanwhile, this is the OhioRAAM show, coming to you from Southwest Ohio. And I'm Lee Kreider, the host of the show, now in our 5th year, and we are coming up on show number 129. The patrons of this show are the wonderful folks who operate time stations 41 in Oxford, Ohio, and time stations 42 in Blanchester, Ohio, in the Race Across America. On our last show, we reported the accident that Danny Chu had had. As of this time, we don't have a lot more information. He is still in Akron Hospital. He's still quite ill, and he is still incapacitated. We'll try to keep you updated with as much information as we feel we can give you, but we want to keep Danny Chu in our thoughts and prayers, this great ultra cyclist who so many of you know and so many of you admire. We can only wish him well. Today's show takes us to Seattle, Washington, with André Kajlich, who is planning to be the very first hand cyclist to qualify for RAAM and the first hand cyclist to finish RAAM as solo. I just had a chat with him online this week, and he tells me that he's now scheduled to do the World 24-Hour Time Trial in Borrego Springs, California, with the hope of being able to qualify for the Race Across America, and he has the Race Across America in his sights for 2017. This is an amazing athlete, and you're going to learn that as you get to chat with André. And with that, we're saying nothing further. We're headed right on out to Seattle, Washington, and André Kajlich. Seattle, Washington, and André Kajlich. How are you today, André?
I'm doing great, Lee. How are you?
Well, everything's fine here. We're having a little bit of a cool spell after a terrible weekend. We're recording this right after the 2016 version of Calvin's Challenge. We had probably the most miserable race I've ever seen. It was
beautiful, beautiful day. Really warm. 85. It's not typical for us at this time of year, but yes, I've been in Ohio in July, done some riding, and it's serious.
André, we're glad to have you with us here. So introduce yourself to us and tell me a little about yourself.
Well, yeah, my name is André Kajlich, and I was born and raised here in Seattle, Washington. And I was pretty active young guy, bouncing around and figuring out my place in life, and decided to go over to study in Prague in the Czech Republic, which was my father's alma mater. He was born in Slovakia, went to school there at Charles University, and actually defected in '67. Something on a whim to find something else to do. I went to school there, and I was studying chemistry. And after about 5 months of living there, sort of a fateful evening out ended in disaster, and I was run over by the metro train. But it was a close call. Almost lost my life, and ended up in a hospital there for a couple months. Came back home to Seattle with really nothing but drive to go back to school and get back to Europe, because I was having such a great time and enjoying all the new experiences. But it was a difficult time, but I did make it, and I was able to walk with prostheses. Got back there, kept going to school, and ended up 4 years in Prague. Came back to Seattle, and it wasn't until about 4 years ago that I got into endurance sports, and it sort of embraced me. I've embraced it, and always hunting for the next challenge and how to make it happen. Which brings me to here, where I've accomplished a few things, but really the focus is forward and what's next. And there's some real tasty meatballs out there that I'm hoping to take part in. And I've realized pretty quickly that they're big and heavy and difficult challenges that kind of change your life. So I'm working my way through that, and trying to make RAAM happen one day. So it's cool to find your show and meet you and learn a lot more about the history and the people that have taken on this beast.
How do you? What's your source of income, Andre?
Well, I work for the state. I'm a employee of the University of Washington. I work in a research group. When I went back to school, I was studying biochemistry and working at the Institute of Molecular Genetics in Prague. And as I tried to continue my studies in genomics, I didn't get into the program that I won't. There's a few other things going on in life where I was dead set on being home and around family, with my father's illness declining. So I came back here and sort of fell out of love with the lab and looked for other opportunities. So I've been working in rehab medicine in a research group for 5 years now, and it's been interesting work, not very financially rewarding, but flexible. So I've been able to race and pursue my interests along the way. So coming to a point now where we're trying to figure out what's next, something that's maybe would support a family, still allow me to do what I'm trying to do.
Okay, let's get into your cycling. Tell me a little about it.
Yeah, well, from the start, it's actually fairly interesting when you go through a sort of traumatic or disabling accident like I did. There is a lot of I'd say encouragement. I wouldn't say it was pressure, but thoughts immediately go to what can you do to overcome this physically, to show that you can still do anything. And at the time, I really wasn't interested at all, and it was mainly because I wanted to go back to school and just pick up where I left off. But also, I definitely felt that the same in what I considered a reduced capacity. I was quite a dabbler, but pretty good at anything I took up. So I was playing all the team sports and baseball, football, but I played tennis, and I was a golfer and a windsurfer and skier and snowboarder. So I didn't, I had my mom telling me that we could strap me to the side of the golf cart and I could still hit a ball. And so I wasn't that interested in those things at the time. And really after I came back from Europe, I just started looking for some exercise. I had swam quite a bit to aid my recovery and prepare for the physical challenge of walking, which is really immense. When I came back to Seattle, I just found a racing wheelchair on Craigslist. I wanted a hand cycle because I thought that would be different than a wheelchair, basically, but a chance to go a bit faster. But I bought this wheelchair and started going, a 2.8 mile loop around a lake nearby my house. And I found it quite enjoyable to get the heart rate up and feel worn out. And so I kept kind of going with that. But I soon met a couple amputees that were going to do the challenged athlete triathlon. And it was the first amputee that were somewhat similar to me in the level of amputee, which probably we can touch upon the importance of that and why I use a wheelchair and don't run, things of that nature. But so I did a team. It was a half Ironman at the time. I did the swim and the run, but in the meantime, I found pretty well hooked, and I just decided to see what was next and what was out there. So I came across some videos of guys doing Kona, the Hawaii Ironman in wheelchair, and I said, all right, that's for me. That's next. And started, just found out how do you qualify. At this time, it was October was the first thing, that I had participated in on the team. And I saw that there was a qualifier in June at Lubbock. It's the Buffalo Springs half Ironman. So I started training up, and I went down there with this kind of junky hand cycle. I mean, it was all right, but it actually didn't meet all of the regulations. So I ended up winning the race, and then was disqualified for using this sort of antiquated bike that didn't meet the rules. But fortunately, it was kind of clear that it wasn't because of my illegal bike that I won. And the guy who was sort of deferred the champion slot, deferred the spot to Hawaii for me to go, which was a great, I think, sportsmanship showing, and allowed me to kind of keep going. Who knows what would have happened if that hadn't occurred. So that left me until that October to sort of gear up. And at the time, that's when I was introduced to some people that were fundraising at Challenge Athletes Foundation, and they raised money to get me a hand cycle so that I could compete legally. So I went to the U.S. National Championships, which is sort of the Paralympic level racing, which is much different from Ironman. We do sprint triathlons. That same year, I qualified to go to Beijing, and I went and got a silver medal there. And then I went to Kona and finished and got second place in the first Ironman I had done. And then it was kind of full on from there. I just, the next year was more racing. I got more into the paratriathlon.
Andre, let me interrupt you.
Yes.
Just to give us a reference, let's go back to when you went to Beijing. What year was that?
That would be 2011, after the Olympics. It was the triathlon or paratriathlon wasn't even a sport in Beijing. Rio is the first time that it will be. That's the International Triathlon Union, and every year they have a World Championships. It's basically the Olympics for those are there. The amateurs are there, and the paratriathletes are there every year. And I raced Beijing that year, and then kept racing paratriathlon in Auckland the next year and in London. In sort of parallel, I started getting into endurance sports, and through sort of doing Ironman and meeting other people and learning what else was out there, I learned about this world of ultra marathons and ultra cycling that I had no idea existed. I mean, I didn't know there was anything really longer than a marathon or an Ironman at the time. So that really just piqued my interest, and I started sort of taking on more of those challenges. That sort of began to butt heads with the paratriathlon pursuits, because I was signing up. I did Kona 1 week before the World Championships in Auckland, and I was very sick in between. Went and raced. I got the silver medal regardless, but I kept wanting to do more and more long events, and sort of coaches for the U.S. team told me probably I should choose between the two. And for me, the choice was simple. I did enjoy the racing, but I just thought it was fun. I'm not that competitive. I have a hard time sort of putting all my energy and focus into just getting that guy in front of me. Although I tend to do that quite a bit on weekend rides. So I gave up the sort of road to Rio and decided, to just kind of go where the heart led me, which is sort of fateful. But regardless, I never wish it was otherwise.
So when it comes to the ultra cycling world, what have you done there? I was looking at your blog earlier, and we'll talk about your blog in a minute, but what have you done there?
Well, very, very naively, after a couple, ultra marathons, I had Brazil and a couple Ultraman triathlons. In those races, just in case anybody doesn't know, and I really only share the distances because it shows like where I was at cycling and where I thought I was going cycling. But it's a 3-day, it's kind of a stage race, stage triathlon, and you do a 10K swim, 6.2 mile swim, followed by a 90-mile bike. And then the second morning, you start and you do a 170-mile bike, and the third day is a double marathon. So I did that in Canada. Then I went to the World Championships in Hawaii, where you do the whole perimeter of the island as opposed to the Ironman on one end. So it's a fun, cool event. But I started getting, I suppose, a little comfortable with what I could take on and handle and accomplish. And so after a few really big adventures that I was trying to put together with mostly a runner, but endurance athlete, Charlie Ingle, a couple of those got kind of close to happening. We were going to run across the U.S. We're going to go to Africa, and a couple other things. I just thought, all right, what am I going to do? What's Andre's focus, and what's the next challenge that I'm just going to look towards and take on? And from Ultraman, it was RAAM. So I met a couple guys who have done the team hand cycle. Not going to lie and say that I wasn't, intrigued by the possibility of being the first guy to do a solo RAAM. And I started digging in and seeing what it took to qualify. So I thought it would be as simple as going to a qualifying race, training up, finishing that. I'm both a little embarrassed to find out that's not the case, but also really excited because it's become much, much bigger than I ever thought it would be. And that's just at this beginning of the pursuit. So I signed up for the SoCal 400. Went down there in May of 2015. So
Okay.
my idea was, it's May. I kind of had, crew stuff a little bit figured out. We could rent what we needed to go for RAAM. Went down there and I was kind of hearing the same, from several sources, Rick and a few others, kind of like, even if you qualify, just maybe consider, next year, this year, take on RAW or take on some more races. And I took it all in, and I sort of started to realize, okay, this is a little bit more than I thought. I definitely empathize with many of the people who take this on, get out there and don't last the first day, because it does from the outside appear just that attainable, because I come from doing a 2.8 mile lake loop and take on the next challenge, train up a bit, no problem, the next thing, and then you run into RAAM and you're like, okay, this is the next logical step, let's go do this. I would say sadly that's not the case, but I think it's anything but sad. I think it's it makes the challenge worth it even that much more. So in SoCal, I was thinking about it just a moment ago. I think I was about 340 miles in. It was a pretty hard race, but it was going pretty well. The interesting thing that really happened out there is that I started doubting how, not just how much I wanted to do this, but how much I should be doing this. And it really came from the perspective of priorities in life. And I really need to get a lot more focus on career and family and those things. And it wasn't that this was taking all of my time at all. I mean, you could probably fit in the training, but that was taking so much of my thoughts and aspirations. I don't know. I think it's, I mention it because of some conversations I've had since, where, these are the things that can really stop you just as much as the fatigue and tiredness and all of that, having your sort of life in order. So, but I kept racing and had no intentions of stopping. We were about 28 hours in. I'd come back over the coast mountains, made it over the top. And in my mind, I have the elevation chart in my head. I'm at the peak, and I know it's nothing but downhill from here.
Downhill from here, yeah.
Yeah. The worst thought you can ever have with with any considerable distance to go. But I started down. I mean, I was definitely worked, and I was pretty pain, sore everywhere. Seating and all of this was starting to get pretty excruciating. And on the way down, there's about a 5-mile downhill, windy, and it hurt pretty bad. And I was not going very fast. And in my mind, I'm going 4 hours left. I should be able to mile downhill. And at the bottom of that, it flattens out. And I was doing 10 miles an hour with all my might. And I saw the crew vehicle ahead go up a hill, kind of cut back to the left, and they're just climbing away. And it just was the most instantaneous deflation, and it just crushed me. And I said, I just got to pull over. So I pulled over. It's a little gravel, and instantly just conked out, fell asleep. I had a sort of media van with me. We were filming, and they came up, and I said, I'm done. I'm not continuing. And they're like, oh, what? You're almost there. It's all downhill basically from here. And I said, it's not. It's going to be five hours, of pain, and I just don't need to do that. So I said, okay, I'll continue up to my van. So I went up that hill to them, and I said I'd chat it out with them, and basically I was like, I don't need to prove this to anybody. It was a very tired Andre, but I just said I don't want to keep going, and let's just pack it in. We talked back and forth a little bit, and I said, I'll just go 30 more minutes, and I'll reevaluate then. And so one of my crew members, and I don't know what he said, and I can't remember. I want to say that it was something along the lines of, "It's okay if you want to stop," but he might have said, "Come on, damn it, keep going." And I said, "Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna stop." That was it. So I bowed disgracefully out of that one. But immediately wasn't too worried about it. I thought it was just not very important. And I started thinking about just the preparation. I got down there like a day and a half before the race and threw stuff together. Was really scrambling, not sleeping much, and kind of put those as the reasons that I was so tired. And a very tired Andre said I'm bowing out, but I think it's a little bit bigger than that. And I definitely wish I had just gone to the finish on that one. I wouldn't say it haunts me, but I sort of walked away from that just thinking, okay, I'm probably not gonna go for RAAM. But like, just even on the plane ride home, I was already talking to people and going, all right, how could we do RAAM? How my crew would have so far to come. I would have so far to come. There's all of these other things in life that I need to figure out. And pretty immediately I started, I want to say, setting to work on that stuff, starting to try to figure it all out. So I don't know, I'll pause there for a moment. The other race I'd talk about is Borrego Springs, which was this November, which I also came up a bit.
How did you do there?
I ended up 364.8. Yeah, I know it to the decimal. But I actually was really proud and happy with that race. The only thing I really, really wanted to do other than qualify was not get off my bike.
And you would have needed 400 there, would you not, to qualify?
Yeah, correct. I needed 400. Just work and trying to figure out what's next for work. just made it really hard to train, and I just didn't do nowhere near what me sitting here would describe as proper training for for 400
So
for a 24-hour time trial.
you still have RAM on your radar. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm heading to Australia on Friday for Ultraman Australia. It sort of came about, and had the opportunity to go do that. After that, I don't have a next race or a plan. I'm trying to figure out how I can make training a priority. I think I can fit it in a lot of other things. It just has to be. I just need to be in a position where I can make it a priority, and it's the challenge everybody faces. I mean, everybody's got the rest of life, and people fit it in and make it work.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things we deal with in ultracycling. It's not a profession. You you have to have an income of some sort.
Okay, great.
So you've been working with our good friend Alberto Blanco, I see.
I have. I met Alberto actually at the San Diego airport. I bumped into a guy that was waiting for Alberto to pick him up. We were all headed to the same place, and Alberto pulled up in the van. I said, "Who's this crazy guy?" He had a bandana and this wild hair and beard going. So we chatted a bit, and then after Borrego, especially we were all on the same plane coming home. He lives in Seattle now. He's moved.
Yes, I know he moved there.
This is the last time I saw that you've interviewed him. I think was in San Mateo, but he's local, so we started talking, and I mean, the guy's a fountain of information, and I started sort of really. I think in Borrego is where I started getting a sense of what I need to do. As far as getting the team around me that I would need, and the immensity of sort of the total challenge, and how to properly prepare. So yeah, it's been ongoing. We meet and ride. He's been training a young guy, Joe Frank, for RAAM this year. So Joe's from San Diego. He's staying up here for a while, and I've joined them for some rides. Yesterday, Joe was going out for, I think he rode a 8 or 8.5 hour ride, and I jumped out there with him for the first 5 hours, and Alberto pumped us up and crewed for us, and then I hopped in the van with Alberto and sort of brought Joe home. So it's awesome because the caliber of cyclists that Alberto is, and getting to ride with him and guys like Joe. I worked pretty hard yesterday. It's a lot different than I feel like I pushed myself on rides, but it's hard to sort of carry what you need and get a good training in with a couple bottles, but it's another thing to ride with guys that are fast and solid and don't stop. And I was joking with them about a group that I ride with, and it's like, oh, stop and eat. There's a bridge. I'm gonna stop and eat, and we stop and take on some nutrition, and then talk for 20 minutes, and then we go another 20 clicks, and then kind of do the same. And yeah, those are great rides and fun. But to go out there and really start sort of emulating what you're going to be doing, living on the bike, that's the type of stuff that I need to really start doing more often.
Well, Andre, I was looking at some video, and Alberto promised to send me some that we can put in the show here. Immediately, I realized that something of a challenge for you with hand cycles is eating and drinking on the bike. Of course, you have to go down to one arm to continue on, do you not?
Yeah, I mean, there's a slew of things. Anytime you would normally use your hands, I probably can't do it on the hand cycle. So it's my steering and my power. Yeah. I take a hand off and will grab my bottle. So I'm usually kind of right-handing it and take a drink, but I'm but I'm losing, with handoffs and all the things that you kind of do. It's just easier with bottles. Generally, there's kind of some downhills where you can do what you need to do, but taking off your sleeves, taking off your gloves, putting your sunglasses on and off on the back, all of those things.
Everything becomes
are just small little momentum breakers. I don't think that'll be the difference, but all those things I need to iron out and at least come up with the most efficient solution.
Well, Andre, you have a blog, and I was reading the blog today, quite a bit of it. It's very interesting, and what I'm going to do is put right below us here on the show notes a link to your blog, a link to your website, so that people can get a little better acquainted with you. I told you before we went on the air, and I thought after reading the blog, the fact that you had lost your legs was probably the least interesting thing about you. But and I mean that in the most positive kind of way. Not that
I take it as such. Thank you.
That's not to belittle what has happened to you, but you are so much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was going to say it's interesting being me, but it's interesting probably being everybody. What I mean to say is to be who I was before the accident, and then go through that. You come out the other side and you go, shit, it's just Andre. And you realize that you're not seen the same as you were before. And I think it's not so much of proving physically what I can do, but the community that's in ultra racing and ultra cycling, they get to know me and I get to know them in a way that sort of erases that. I mean, I'm out there, doing the bike event in a very different way. But it's many times I've shown up to a race and I see the relationship with other people completely change through the course of it, and I feel like it's a chance to get past that, and that was probably one of the big draws for me to this racing. I don't need a big audience or anything. I just need a couple people to go pound some miles with, and it's awesome. So it's.
Well, Andre, I wish you well in your endeavor. I would have to say I very much hope to see you someday on the Race Across America. I would relish that. No one has ever qualified for RAAM with a ham cycle. Well, it was such a coincidence. I just scanning through Facebook just before we went on the air here. There was a post of Alberto following you down the road, a little video, and I thought, it's a small community, Andre.
It is. I was so excited to get on here and tell you that I know Alberto, and we were riding together yesterday. So it's a great community, and I've definitely only scratched the surface. So I'm excited for more.
Well, there's so much more to your story, Andre, than what we have time for here. And so I would encourage people just to go to your post and scan down through there. You'll learn a lot more about Andre. His challenges were much greater than the physical ones we've been talking about. Well, the leg impairment. You had a lot more to overcome, and you're a challenge to us all.
Thank you, Lee. Everybody else is doing out there, and of course their reaction to me as well. So I'm also very appreciative, and that's what community is, right? You kind of help each other battle through whatever they need help with, encourage and cheer them on, and share each other's life. That's the best parts about being alive.
Well, thank you, Andre, for being with us today. We appreciate that. We wish you well in what you are endeavoring to do there. We hope that you do qualify for RAAM, and we do hope that we will see you in the RAAM tournament coming up this June of 2017. Thank you for those of you who support the show. We appreciate all that you do. Those of you who give us support on the social media as we try to make the wonderful world of ultracycling known to more and more people. And when you give your likes and your pluses and your retweets, that does that. But particularly when you share the program on your own page or site. We'll see you in about 10 more days, as this show happens on the 7th, the 17th, and the 27th of each month. Goodbye.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.